evening. Thank you all for being here. My name is Molly Kruger, and I serve as the director of middle school, and I also am a teacher in the middle school. And so the purpose of tonight is just to really hopefully answer some of your questions, ease some of your minds. This is the first time that I've had a class come through that I haven't taught them in 4th and 5th grade. Last year's class was the first class, so I feel like parents can get a little overwhelmed, and so just kind of maybe sitting down and talking about it will give you a little bit of peace. So we're going to start with prayer as we begin our time together tonight. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Dear Lord, I thank you for these parents and for the choice that they have made to allow our middle school teachers to teach and help their students grow spiritually, physically, academically over the next 3 years. We ask you to bless them as they end this year in 5th grade, the students, teachers, and parents. And we ask you to protect them over the summer, help them grow, help them renew so that they can be ready to face the challenges. And we ask all this in your name. So I'm just going to give you a brief. Some of you I've known for a long time. Some of you don't even know who I am. So just to kind of give you a brief description of who I am. I have been in this school probably over half my life because I attended it. I went here from 1st grade to 8th grade because at that time they did not have kindergarten. And then I went to Knoxville Catholic, was a graduate of Knoxville Catholic, went away for college, came back, and was hired right away. So I'm about to start my 27th year as a teacher here at St. Joseph's. So if you need to know where the secret bathrooms are, let me know. I can tell you where they are. I have some background information. But just really tonight, hopefully you'll walk away feeling a little bit more relieved, maybe more prepared is my goal. So we are a team, is how we look at it. So I hope that you will feel that way. You're entrusting us with your prized possession and your child, and we're going to hopefully challenge them, love them, and push them to be the best that they can. And that might not always be easy. And sometimes as a parent, that's hard to hear. But hopefully when you look back, you'll think, wow, that was a great experience my child had at St. Joseph's School and got them ready for the next phase. So we are committed to holiness as a way of life, and you'll hear me use that several times. So this is just our mission statement, which you may already know. I just kind of wanted to talk about how it applies to middle school. Okay, so here's just some things I'm going to cover. And I'm going to send you a video of this, and I'm going to send you my slides after tonight, so you can have this, so no reason to take notes. The process for student placement will begin, as has already started. I have pictures of all of your children in a document, and the teachers and I will start meeting Friday. And we will look at every piece of data that we can on your child's report card, STAR testing. We will talk with them. We spend time with Mrs. Markway and Mrs. Benedict. And then we will take all that information and then we will place them. This is a smaller class, so they're going to be probably together for history, science, and literature. And then they will be split for math and English. And so that's kind of where we are right now, unless our numbers change for some reason. 6th grade is required to do science fair, so sorry about that. We got one more year of that fun thing. My suggestion to you is as much as you can let go is going to be the best thing you can do for your child in high school. And sometimes that means I have to sit in parent-teacher conferences with parents in tears because I know it's hard to let go. I'm about to let go of one that's a senior and one that's an 8th grader, and it's hard to let go of being in charge of them. But the more you let little things go now when they're in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, the easier the transition will be. So if they can take a big part of this, then that'll be great. Just so you know, 7th grade, they'll do National History Day projects instead of science fair. And then 8th grade, they're given a choice, science fair or national history. We do also kind of have an honors track that we really push in our 8th grade because we're trying to align with Knoxville Catholic's honors classes. So in order for your child to be considered for that honors track, some of the things we use are their STAR testing, but they also take a test called the Orleans Canon, and we use that. Their ITBS scores have to be 90% or higher in order to even be considered for that honors track. So a lot of parents are like, how's my kid get in there? Your kid's gonna be in there if that's the right place for your kids. So sometimes I think as parents, it's hard for us to admit that maybe your kid isn't that honors track kid, and that is okay because they're gonna be successful and they're gonna do great things and they're gonna be successful in high school too. So we just try to really meet every child where they're at and push them as far as they can be. Of course, we want everyone in that honors track, but we also want to meet the kids' needs and not stress them out too much. Literature, one of the things that when Mr. Zingle and Father Chris moved me from 4th, 5th grade to the middle school, they wanted me to bring more rigor to our middle school. I had just had a daughter that had completed middle school. Now, her 8th grade year was COVID, so that was a little, put her a little bit behind, but she was very overwhelmed when she went to Knoxville Catholic. And so what I did was one of the first things we did is all of our teachers went to Catholic to watch what are we preparing them for. Because if you don't know what you're preparing them for, then it makes it hard to kind of get them ready for that. So we've sent all the teachers there to kind of look and see. I went to Sister Scholastica's class, and I have mimicked my class after her structure. She uses short stories and novels mixed together, and that's kind of how I run the literature class. Your class has had the benefit that many others haven't, is that you have Miss Benedict, who has been with me for what now, Miss Benedict, 6 years?
Or 10, maybe 10.
Yeah. 10 years she's been with me in my classroom, so she knows my routine, she knows how I work, and so she took one of the novel studies and did it with your children, 2 different novels, and ran it very similar to how I run my novel studies. So that was a great way to prepare them for what they'll be going through as they transition. Religion, they're going to have Mr. Abamusa for religion. They're 6th and 7th grade, and then Mr. Zingle still teaches 8th grade religion, so that we kind of send them off with the deepened faith when they go into, and then their prayer life. And then I'll talk about the service component a little bit more detailed in just a moment. Our English is mainly to develop the grammatical skills, and we don't have it necessarily every day. My literature class is short stories, novels, and writing. So every week your child will be doing a writing commitment, and they'll do a project that I took the guidelines from the project for my daughter's freshman year project. They call it, I can't remember what they call it. Yeah, they call it the REP project at Knoxville Catholic. I call it the Spring Signature Project at St. Joseph. And so it helped them mimic, so they would go through the experience. I've had many of my freshmen this year come back excited to tell me what they did and that they were well prepared. They did not do what they did in 6th grade. I don't think I had one of them, but they knew the process, and that made them feel better. So that kind of is one thing too. And then we also have electives, which is a really fun way to get the kids involved in our videoing and a video elective. Mr. Whittingham is doing robotics, and he's kind of going through that right now as we speak. So if you have a skill and you might be interested to help us in our electives, we're always looking for people to come and help us as well. Let me just go back real quick. Do any of you all have any questions so far, anything that I've covered so far? Okay, all right, discipline. We're very similar to third, fourth, and fifth, but I think the thing is consequences come a little bit, with a little bit more as you get older. It's just like when you go to high school, the consequences are a little bit more serious than when you were in middle school. Well, same's true for elementary. When you're leaving elementary, the consequences are going to get a little bit more serious, and so we take that very seriously. Mr. Abamusa is the one who tracks all of our discipline in RenWeb. So there will be no more signing of the assignment books. Yay! No more signing of the Friday folders. You won't have any of that. What you will have is emails, and if you set up your RenWeb correctly, you'll get an email if your child is missing an assignment or gets a failing grade on an assignment. So that is something that continues through Knoxville Catholic, so I would suggest that you get real familiar with your RenWeb, because you might not have ever looked at it, and you might not even know if you have an account, or so that might be something to look at. Mr. Abamusa does all the emails. That does not mean he gives all the marks. A lot of people are like, gosh, this Mr. Abamusa is so mean. No, he just emails you. We give them to Mr. Abamusa, he puts them in. So you'll see the email from Mr. Abamusa, but in it, it'll say, forgot gym shorts given by Coach Ranks. Or it'll say, failure to follow directions in literature given by Mrs. Krieger. So it just kind of, the emails come from Mr. Abamusa. We do Dojo. It worked out great that the day that the fifth grade came to visit, they got to see the Dojo stores set up. They were really excited about all the candy and everything. I do have parents helping stock that, so if you have any connections, middle schoolers loved box candy, Skittles, Laffy Taffy, it doesn't matter. Any kind of box candy that you can buy at the dollar stores is prime in the middle school. So we still do Fun Day Friday, it's just a little bit more, it's not as long. And then there's consequences for choices. A lot of times, the way I approach discipline is, what's the reason behind it? And so if your child is getting marks, they're gonna be meeting with me. And then they're gonna be discussing with me, okay, what teacher are you having problems with? What's the situation you're having? Okay, what can I do to help you in that situation so you're not doing that again? What can you do differently? And so those are some of the things, and they write about them, and then I keep them, and then we reflect. Sometimes if they have the same problem again, I get back out there writing and say, hey, you said you were gonna do this, and it didn't happen. So that writing becomes kind of a piece of just a way to learn about their behavior as well. So I try to not involve Mr. Zingle as much as possible, but there are some cases that I get his feedback on the discipline issues as well. Oh, any questions on discipline? Sorry, fantastic. Okay, communication. Students will use Google Classroom, and so what Google Classroom will look like is I'm just going to show you an example of the 6th grade literature. They'll learn to navigate this, and then it'll tell them like what's going on that day, work on spring signature assignments, study exam terms. They have the exam terms linked, okay? They don't necessarily turn anything in on Google Classroom. We did that when we were, of course, remote and all that. But this is a great resource if they're absent or you have a child that never can remember. Oh, hey, let's look at Google Classroom and review and see, does that trigger your memory? Do you have any homework? You know, those kind of things. So early, you know, when there is homework, it will be like listed of what is for homework and novel study, what we did that particular day. It'll just kind of list out. And all the teachers in middle school, the core teachers use Google Classroom. So on their first day, second day of school, we get them all, we get their Chromebooks issued to them, and we get them signed into all these classrooms. So that's something we do immediately. So just kind of wanted to give you what it kind of looks like there too. Students will use daily assignment books. We do not, that is something that's on the supply list. So it's up to you to figure out what works best with your child and the assignment book. But I have my homework corner over there. Teachers have their homework corner. They write what is due, when it's due. The difference between elementary and middle school is Monday is novel study day, so they'll get assigned, 2 chapters to read and questions to do. But that won't be due till the next Monday. So it's like time management becomes a little bit more important than it is in elementary school because they have to remember, oh yeah, that's due in a week. And they can choose. Okay, I've got soccer on Monday nights, but Tuesday night's like my least amount, so I can do it Tuesday. Or the weekend works better. So it's a little bit more freedom. Now some things, short story is Tuesday, Wednesday, usually Thursday. Those are going to be due the next day. So some things are going to be a longer date. And so what you'll see in the assignment book is that we write the due date so that it kind of keeps them organized. I have found the kids that use the assignment book tend to do better at turning in the homework. So I encourage. Now, does it always happen? Not always, but we encourage it. You will use RenRev. You will hardly get a paper home. If you do, it will probably be like bent up because it's been in their locker or shoved in their backpack. We tried to do a folder, and the kids never put it in their folder. So you might see, homework folder or work folder on the supply list, but it doesn't get used very much in middle school. But you have RenRev, and we enter grades weekly. So it's not like you have to wait to the end of the 9 weeks. You can be checking your child's progress throughout the, within the first 2 weeks we're putting grades in. So that's something that is different too. You'll get a weekly reminder email from me. So I kind of send out everything for the middle school teachers. So you won't get it from Miss Mitchell, you won't get it from Mr. Winningham. It'll just kind of come from me. I kind of organize it, put stuff that you need to know, upcoming dates, that kind of thing. So I usually send it out pretty consistently. Sunday nights or Sunday mornings, depending on my schedule at home. This is my email and my cell phone number if you want to give me a call or you want to email me, that's great. I am a mom of 2, if you will just remind yourself of that. So I don't sometimes donate or don't always, I'm not always perfect with the communication. So, because I do try to be a mom first. So. All right. Any questions about communication? Okay.
The homework and upcoming projects, they have to write that down. It's not going to be online for them to.
Well, it will be listed in the Google Classroom usually as well. But I have found that requires them to go to Literature Monday and Literature Tuesday. Whereas if they have the assignment book, it's like, this is what is due, this is what is due. It's kind of all listed there, right there for the week. And so it'll be both places, but usually they do better if they don't have to go hunt through Google Classroom to find it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And when you say assignment books, planner?
Yeah,
basically?
yeah.
Yeah,
The girls get the flowers,
Okay, I was gonna ask,
pumpkin.
in particular to the kids,
They,
that are,
if they can do a week at a time where they have a pretty big space to write for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then they could have the month in there, but as long as it has the weekly. And usually the ones that are about this big are best. If it's this big, it's taken, the bigger ones are a little bit harder. So the smaller one, but not the real small one, you won't have enough room in that one. Great questions. Someone else? Okay. A lot of times we get questions about service hours because this is like the start of required service hours. I will tell you, if you choose to go to Knox Catholic, that continues as well. So this kind of is preparing them. So this is just kind of a breakdown. and this, I just took this out of the handbook, but sixth graders are asked to complete 3 service hours at each academic quarter. You must have your form turned in to the religion teacher, which is Mr. Abamusa. I will send you reminders. Service hours are due Monday, May 13th. Reminder, service hours are due Monday. We try to be pretty flexible about this. If you just email, my kid went and worked here, and we're gonna accept your word. We're not gonna tell you no lie about your kid's service hours. So just know, we've also had, some of our non-Catholic students that didn't necessarily have a parish. They've picked up and did more community service or did more school service. So know if you have a problem, just communicate it with us, but this is what we would like, but we also understand that this isn't always what is able to be happening. But we would like the first quarter to get 3 hours, second quarter 3 hours, third quarter 3 hours, fourth quarter 3 hours. You gotta have at least 3 hours to school, 3 hours to your place of worship, 3 hours to the community, which would make, and then you get to choose, and then you gotta have a total of 12 hours by the end. Mr. Zingle will start sending out emails probably June.
Yep.
School service opportunity, move all the middle school furniture. Some kids come in to us having all 12 hours completed by August, and we accept that, that's fine. You just have to document it and get it sent to us. Some kids come in with no hours, and they just get them. Every day, I can tell you, I will say, does anybody want to take out our trash for service hours? And you'd be surprised that, oh, I'm good, I've got all my service hours, and then I'm emailing parents. So if they take out the trash after lunch 5 days a week, I give them an hour of service. So if your child is telling you, I don't know how to get service hours, that's one way, right here, at school, no problems whatsoever. So that's also an option. I also try to send out Irish Fest and Immaculate Conception this Saturday, looking for workers, email this person. So I do try to send out when I hear about, and if you have anything you hear about and you want to share it with me so I can share it with others, where children are able to volunteer under the age of 18 too. It's kind of hard to find sometimes service opportunities for students. So, any questions on this? Let me show you too. This is what the forms look like. You have a choice. You can make your kid fill out this form. You can fill out this form, or you can just email Mr. Abamusa. So we accept either one. So this child filled it out. This is when they did it. Counts for 2 hours. It was a further worship. They were an altar server for mass. Father signed it, and then they brought it back in. If you can't get Father to sign it, you sign it, and just let us know that you saw it and that your child did it. These forms are on the middle school page at sjsknox.org. Under our middle school, there's one that says service. It's also part of the handbook, which is online too. Or Mr. Abamusa has them in his classroom in a little container, and you can tell your child to pick up one. So that's kind of how that works. So, just last thing, and then I have some parents that have been through the middle school in here, and I thought I would give them a chance maybe too to just kind of, what can I do this summer to help my child get ready? You're gonna have a math packet, and I think they were given out today. So this is their math packet for the summer. Complete this. This is going to be their first quiz grades for math. So they'll bring it back in, complete it, and it'll count for 2 quiz grades. This is just to keep them fresh over the summer. Mr. Whittingham worked with Mrs. Markway, and they came up with a plan of what needed to be practice. The other thing is I would just make sure that the child comes into middle school knowing their multiplication facts at the back of their hand. So if you need singing or songs or anything over the summer to get those memorized, they're going to be a step above if they come in just already having them memorized. You're gonna complete at least 15 hours of reading this summer. I'm gonna be sending home this is what we did last summer. I'm not sure yet if this is exactly what I'm gonna do this summer. That's something I usually do when school is over, before the report cards. But they will be required to have 15 hours of reading. This will be sent in your report cards. This is where they can record their 15 hours. If you lose this, just write it on a piece of notebook paper. You don't have to write the book just put, this is what they're reading, a line all the way through, and make them do it. Make them fill it out, would be my suggestion, okay? So, and then every year I like to do at least one assignment with one of the books they've read. So I don't require a certain book because I still want it to be viewed as enjoyable reading, and not just something my teacher is making me read. So I'd rather them read something that they want to read over the summer and then do something with it. So last year they had to do an analysis of a literary character and they had to give a speech on it when they came back to class. So the speech had guidelines, it had to be 3 to 5 minutes, persuasive, and then I gave them adjectives to use, I gave them the rubric that I would be used to grade them, and then this was their first 2 quiz grades for literature. So I might keep it the same assignment, I'm not exactly sure yet. It will be in your report card. I will also email it to you, just in case you need a copy of it. So complete the 15 hours of reading, complete the summer reading assignment. That will be in your report cards. Get your child off their phone and outside and enjoying, and maybe have them write about it. Like, okay, you went to the mountains or you took a trip to the beach. All right, can you give me 3 paragraphs about that and just see what they can do? They might hate you, but tell them this character told you to do it, and then you can blame me. Yeah, so get them out in the fresh air. I would start getting them in a bedtime routine a week out before we start back to school, just to help and your morning routine. And then prepare your social hormones. They will be changing. You will sometimes think, what in the world is happening? That is very normal. So it's, boys become something that all of a sudden a girl notices, and then their bodies are changing, their voices are changing. Middle school is a time of really finding themselves, and it can be challenging. It's challenging socially sometimes as well. Mrs. Gilpin is a big part of helping us transition the kids. I'm kind of the face that the kids check in with too. I make sure you're all doing okay. I'm not going to say every day is perfect, but when they're having a bad day, we're going to help them through it, help them, what can you do to transition easy, those kind of things. But they do change. And some parents are just, they're like, my kid is all of a sudden angry. Yeah, they get angry. They bottle it up all day, and then they get home and they know you love them, and so you become not the best person in the world sometimes. So just kind of prepare yourself for that change. It's exciting. It's hard to watch sometimes, and sometimes it makes you really not like your kid. I've gone through it with 2 girls, and in the process of still going through it. So that's kind of just what I wanted to kind of prepare you for. Just if you're not on RenRev, I would suggest talking to Gabby Rankin and getting yourself on RenRev. And then if you ever want to volunteer, just make sure you've gone through the CMG Connect, because we forgot that. I asked Mrs. Vandergrift to be here. She had Addison come through last year. She also had Landon, who is now at Knoxville Catholic. Landon, boy, typical, had to part time with the organization. So, didn't know where stuff was all the time. Addison, very conscious about her work, but wants to make it perfect, and had a little bit of anxiety about coming to middle school, so I thought she might be a great source for some of you parents to just kind of, so I might just ask her to kind of just say, maybe 3 things if you would, or I don't know, whatever you want from me.
I'll give you some tips as a mom.
Okay.
So when Landon came through, Miss Kruger had just come over, and one big thing for him, and probably the biggest thing, is the planner, because you have it checked every day in 4th and 5th grade. You do not have it checked every day here. They don't write it down. They don't know their homework. So in the beginning with Landon, that was very hard because I wanted to see what he had to do all the time, make sure he's doing it. But that transitioned into he's at Catholic, and the assignment is on Monday, but it may not be due to Thursday. He might do the assignment on Monday, but not remember to turn it in on Thursday because he wasn't keeping up with his own time management. So that I enabled him. With Addison, it's been different. She writes it down. She has to remember when it's due. I'm not monitoring it like I did with Landon because that was a hard transition for me to let go of that planner. You know, having it signed every day, that was a huge thing. So they definitely have to write things down. The second thing is definitely RenWeb, which is called Facts on your phone. It's an app you download. I think you pay $4.99 for 1 year, and I can check anytime to see what grades are missing. Those are all big ways to help during the week for sure. If they're struggling with transition more than the amount of homework they're doing, the anxiety of coming in, on the newsletter that Mr. Zingle sends out, there's always a section from Ms. Gilpin that has some of the best free results. We've used it. I've used it as an adult. My kids have used it. Free apps, all kinds of things, just to help. Talking points, not getting in the car and saying, how was your day? Instead of saying, oh, how did this go? Or specific questions, and not just let them get in the car and unload sadness. Oh, all this happened today. So I always pinpoint a question every day. And then the last thing I would say is that my child that's going through now was definitely during a big transition during COVID in 2nd grade, which I guess yours probably would have been the year before her. One thing she was not very good at is typing. And I didn't realize that. There's a lot of free typing games that are really fun that Landon used to play, but they kind of missed that because they weren't at school to do that during COVID. That is huge coming into middle school with all the things they type on a Chromebook. You will be surprised at how little they're used to typing paper. So that's been a big transition, and those games are helping us. So those are probably the 3 biggest things that have helped us come through middle school. And always ask them to talk to their teacher. So instead of me just sending Ms. Kruger an email as soon as Addison has an issue, it's like, did you go talk to her? Is this due and you don't have it ready? Go tell her that you don't have it ready and it's not due ahead of time, because that's exactly how high school is. You're not communicating with those teachers from freshman year, day 1. They are. They're sending emails. They're doing all that themselves. So it's very good to start that early in middle school. So that's been the differences I've had. And I have 2 totally different children that do polar opposites.
So Howls, you're here, you didn't know you were going to be put on the spot, but any advice to all the, you've had Will go through and now Tim just finished 5th grade.
I think it is, you talk about the projects, the science fair, the history day, letting them kind of take ownership of that, I think is a great step. It's sometimes hard to watch because it can be a little bit train wreckish as you watch that process, but it generally comes together. I think that is a big thing. I think one of the things that we had to encourage our boys is exactly that. When there are issues, go and talk to the teacher. Go and address that, and don't hesitate on that. The biggest thing I've been very pleased with both the boys who've been through, and and from Will's experience at Catholic, I think he was very well prepared. I was very pleased with that, and just to watch the staff, they do a great job. They encourage the kids, and having been through all the way through to 8th grade camp for the 2 boys, the teachers love the kids, and Mary Margaret's biggest fear right now is, well, it's just going to be so rough, and Miss Kruger's going to be so tough, and I'm like, well, that's good, but I'm glad you have that fear, but if you do your work, you'll be surprised how much the teachers love the kids. So.
And I think I would reiterate that
I actually think the thing that helped our boys the most was that we really were not terribly involved in what they do. If they got a bad grade, they got a bad grade. And, they had to figure out how to get their own grade back up. And we really, granted, both of them they tend towards the organized side, but really I think it helped them learn organization skills by the fact that we really did not, did not kind of micromanage them. And, there are gonna be hard days. I mean, there are gonna be days when Ms. Kruger has really hard conversations with them. But the teachers in the middle school, they will love them as hard as they push them.
Yeah, it was a lot of, kind of benign neglect. I mean, it just kind of left them alone and, and, because that kind of continues on at Catholic. I mean, really the only times that there's discussions and we get those dreaded homework emails, I'm like, William, why are we getting a homework email?
At dinner time every day.
Yes, at dinner time, or, right when we're sitting down the family, I'm like, why are we getting another one? But, yeah, so it's a lot, at least from my perspective, a lot less involvement in terms of their day-to-day, which I think is very good for them and to prepare them for Catholic or whatever high school they may go to.
Yeah, and that, I don't know how many parents know exactly the process. We have a lot of kids that are going to public high schools, but we also work very closely with Knoxville Catholic. So what I'm about to do with your kids to learn where I should maybe place them based on all the data and all the information from the teachers that have had them, we do that same thing with the teachers at Knoxville Catholic. We sit down with them, they come here, they go through testing, they come through placement tests. So we work very closely with that. But if that is not your option, I get calls from Central and different places too about the placement. Not as close, I guess I would say, as Knoxville Catholic, but definitely, I do get input on that as well. I can tell you this, I am strict. I push the kids just like my father pushed me and raised me, I guess I would say. I sent Renweb messages to myself as my child's teacher. She got Renweb messages from Mrs. Kruger, and my husband was like, "Are you serious?" I was like, "No, she didn't do it right. She got a 65 or 0." So I don't treat the kids any different than I kind of treat my own children. So, but I do hope and I pray that they know how much I do love them. And usually by the time they leave here, when they look back, they know how much I have loved them. And so that's kind of my goal. I might not be your favorite person every day because sometimes, Miss Benedict and I talk about this, it's really hard to watch your kid fail. It's gut-wrenching. But sometimes in the moments that they fail is when they really learn the most about themselves. And so it's me kind of talking you through, it's okay, like they're gonna pick themselves back up and be better for it, but during the process of doing it, it hurts. It's hard. It's hard conversations. And so sometimes, I might not be your favorite, but hopefully you'll also look back and know how much I am dedicated to my job, to my calling. I've had several products of my classroom right here. So anyway, I'm here for you all too. Please know I answer a lot of parents' questions. So if you have any or need anything, sometimes it's a cell phone text. Hey, we're having a really rough morning, Mrs. Kruger. Could you just check in? Great. That gives me a heads up that I appreciate those kind of text messages because it lets me know, okay, this kid has had kind of a rough morning. I need to make sure we're on and I'm checking in, those kind of things. We really do try to work with the parents too, so if you have any kind of problems, please just come, or encourage, as the parents have said, encourage your kid to come first. But if you don't feel like that worked the best, then definitely you come and please talk to us. You know, I'd much rather you come to me than to go to Mr. Zingle and complain. Like, just let me see if, now, I'm not saying you might not have to go to him at some, point too, but I'm just saying, let me try to see if I can better myself, because sometimes it's my learning experience too that I need to go through, that the parents help me see, oh, I didn't communicate that very well, or I should have done this better. So it's also a learning experience for the teachers as well. I think that's about it. Mr. Zingle, do you have anything you want to add?
Well, I mean,
Oh, you were.
to go through.
Well, you talk a lot of the time, so I didn't know if these people wanted
No,
to hear you.
I just want, I'm grateful for the preparation they've had. Mary is, to use her lingo, slaying it. So, I think that I agree they're very well prepared. She's, I think the writing especially has really prepared her well for what she's doing at Catholic High and math. She's taken 2 honors math classes. So, what more can you ask for? James, so Mary gets really stressed about her work, so we know exactly what she's stressed about and has been that way for a long time. James, I don't know what he's missing, but he seems to get it done. So whatever you're doing, both scenarios has worked for those two. So, thank you.
And I do want to add, she was my teacher in the 4th grade, so I feel like in 4th grade, we were very scared to be in her class. But at the same time, I feel like her pushing us so much, honestly prepared us for middle school. I feel like I was so much more organized. You know, the first day of 4th grade, I got a mark because I forgot my red pin. And I went to my mom and was like, Mom, this period we didn't get a mark. I got scared of her. She was like, she's doing it because she's preparing you. And she was right. Like, here I am. Years later, and like I've been so organized throughout high school and everything. Even just that, learning that from 4th grade has been such a huge help, I bet you really did prepare us for middle school. So I feel like your kids, even my brother, is going to be in good hands, is going to be prepared for high school.
I still have a picture that she made me when she was in 4th grade too. She wrote a poem, do you remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, I still have it. So in that, I think that was some of the fear maybe is that, they didn't have Miss Kruger in 4th grade. Well, Addison's class didn't have Miss Kruger in 4th and 5th grade too, and they have risen to the occasion. Miss Benedict has gotten to be in class with us to witness it, and so I'm not worried that we're not going to be able to prepare your children. I think it's going to be great. I think it's been very beneficial that Mrs. Benedict has been able to bring my novel studies down lower because that will be a little bit of what they know when they get here. So I think, does anybody have any other questions or any concerns or anything like that maybe I didn't cover tonight? Ms. Benedict?
I was just going to say, one option that you all offer so lovingly is homework helpers during recess.
Yeah, so during recess, if your child is one of the ones who kind of forgets stuff or forgets to do the homework, I usually on Mondays print a missing report, and I'll say, these students, please report to homework helpers. So they go, and it's amazing how quickly the homework gets done when they have to miss a recess. They suddenly remember, oh yeah, I do have that. And so we have one middle school teacher, and usually Miss Benedict sometimes comes in, Miss Cook comes in, and so they're there to walk around in case they have questions about the homework. Was it because they didn't understand it? Was it because of organization? Was it because of time management? What I love is that sometimes our students come to homework helpers on their own because they know they have a football game that night, and they have basketball, and they have this practice. I know how busy after school can be for a lot of our kids, so they take on that time management skill, which is amazing. I've been really impressed with that. The other big transition that I kind of forgot to mention is studying. for like tests. Usually in elementary, the kids might study for their spelling test, and that's about it. You know, you don't see them studying for history or science or literature tests or anything like that. That is a change, and that's kind of like where we will start. This is Quizlet. This is how you make a Quizlet. If you make your own Quizlet, it's much better because you're typing the question and the answer into Quizlet, and then it can quiz you on it. Or we'll show them how to make the old-fashioned good old note cards where you flashcards, because some kids, they cannot be on their Chromebooks because if they are, they're playing another game that has nothing to do with what they should be studying. So we moved those kids to flashcards because that's better. And we are very strict with the Chromebooks. I think that might be an area where I had to kind of speak to the kids. You guys are paying a lot of money. I pay a lot of money. I don't want my kid just playing a game to play a game here at school. So if the teacher doesn't direct them to be on the game, or it doesn't have an educational purpose, it's not going to have a place in middle school. So just kind of know that that's kind of our philosophy. We want to use each minute that we have to kind of push them, and they should be busy. Now, our whole science project, our whole science program is online, so they will be on their Chromebooks a lot. So, they're going to have to learn that lesson, and it might be that they learn it the hard way because they're on something they shouldn't be. So, so just know that that is something that we think about too, is just making sure that they're using their Chromebooks really good. I did have to take away, an 8th grader's Chromebook, and they didn't get it back, and they had to handwrite everything, and we teachers had to print everything and had to print every test, and so that was, it was as much of a hardship on us as it was the kid, but we were willing to do it to try to teach them. So, so just know that that might be something that comes into play. And also, I had to make some really, Mr. Zingle and I and the teachers had to make some hard choices. We had some kids that did not get to go to camp because of their behavior. And so, just some of those consequences kind of become a little bit more real. Not necessarily, like we're more moving into it in 6th grade, but by 8th grade, we're really showing them because they're going to face it when they get to high school. You don't want to make one choice that leads to them getting kicked out or, those kind of things. So just kind of showing them, hey, your consequences, there is action. Your actions have consequences sometimes. So, so just know that would be part of it too. So, anyone else have any? Yes.
Homework issue they can run into, is it best for them to come to the,
Homework helpers.
yeah, that's where that would go.
And also, Mr. Whittingham is probably the most giving teacher of his time. Would you agree, those of you who have been here before? He's here at, we're pretty much the whole middle school team, except for Mr. Applebee's, are here by 7:15. So if you get here early, and that is another thing that 6th grade kind of has a problem with, you can't be late. And I know that some people have a little bit of trouble being on time, but at 7:30 in middle school, the bell is ringing, and they are going to their homeroom to work on morning work. So they have an assignment that they work on. Now, of course, the late bell doesn't ring till what, 7:45? So that's 15 minutes that your kid could be working on the assignment. They also have to check in for lunch, go to their locker, get their stuff for their first period of class. Mr. Zingle comes on, starts announcements at 7:55. By 7:57, we're walking to our first period. If they're late, then they gotta go to their locker, and then they gotta do their morning work at another time, maybe homework helpers, and it is so stressful for them. And so I just encourage you, I know it's hard, believe me, to get the kids out the door. So I just encourage you, it just makes it a lot smoother for the 6th grade, especially if they can just be here. And if they're having trouble the night before, you can say, let's go in early because I know Mr. Whittingham will be there, I know Mrs. Kruger will be there, you can ask them your question. Yeah, so, and most of us are here till after 3:30 too. So if they had a question, they could, more so probably early morning is better because we do have families that we sometimes have to trek off to a game or something like that. So, but that's always an option, to come in early or to go to homework helpers. And like if they have us, like say I'm working homework helpers and they have a question in math, I'll just radio Mr. Whittingham. Mr. Whittingham, so-and-so has a question, can they come out to you? They'll go out, ask Mr. Whittingham the question, come back in and finish their math. So that's kind of how that works, if they have a specific question that I might not be able to help them with in math.
And it's a in and out flow of kids, you know, they'll finish an assignment, head out to recess, it's not like they're in prison, you know.
Yeah, and we try to not make it feel necessarily like punishment, it's more like, this is a time management thing, because when they go to Knoxville Craft Boat, they're gonna have an hour and what, hour and 10 minutes for lunch, or hour for lunch? They have a long lunch period, and I have found that my child, I was like, use that time, use your lunchtime to go, meet with this teacher, or check with that, or do this, So we're just trying to kind of promote that right now in the middle school, so they can see that this is a time that I could use, and we're really one of the only middle schools that has a recess. So I do think recess is important, don't get me wrong, but there's not a lot, Knox County middle schools don't have recess. So, we let them go out, but we also encourage them if you have something else that is more needy, then stay inside. And then one day a week, we'll close everything sometimes. If we see they're kind of having a hard week with, like usually sometimes a full moon will even make them crazy, or it's just, we haven't had a break in a long time, I'll say, everybody goes to recess today. And then maybe we've had a couple of behavior issues and we just need to get some of the energy out. So sometimes I'll make that call too. But yeah, so that was kind of for that. Yes?
So will we be allowed to bring their Chromebooks home?
Yes, when they are issued their Chromebook in August, that will be their Chromebook for the year and their charger. And this is a really good practice too, charging their Chromebooks. It's amazing how they can keep their cell phones charged. But then Mrs. Krieger, I need to plug we cannot have cords going across the room to every plug. So we've tried to implement that we try to be lenient first, but then, you got to get that